All right, for today's video review, we are taking a look at Transformers Kingdom Deluxe Class Huffer. Finally found all the Wave 2 Deluxes, and yeah, he does not disappoint. I've always been pretty partial to Huffer. I like all of the G1 mini-bots, but I don't know, Huffer especially has always had kind of a soft spot in my heart. And yeah, I think that they did a really good job with this figure. He transforms into one of those it's not like a regular semi-truck, which I feel like his original toy was implying that he was, but that kind of didn't make sense scale-wise in terms of like the robot mode supposed to be pretty small and the vehicle mode being like the same kind of truck as Optimus Prime didn't make a ton of sense. So like they've kind of reimagined him. It's not the first time they've done this, but reimagined him more as like, you know, one of those kind of like smaller trucks, like the kind of thing that you might find at like an airport or something to carry around the sort of smaller trailers and stuff like that. And yeah, it works pretty well. Getting into scale wise, here he is with Bumblebee and Optimus Prime. And yeah, I feel like that works out pretty well. I also, for scale, here he is with, I'm going to start using this in my reviews, but I 3D printed a little, basically average height person scaled to this guy right here. So, you know, if Bumblebee were the proportions of an actual, you know, bug or beetle of this model, then this is basically like what an average height person would look like next to him. And I feel like that scale works out pretty well as being kind of like a smaller truck. But yeah, no, it's really cool. Another interesting feature that you can do with this guy is you can take Optimus Prime's trailer, and he's actually got a little trailer hitch back here. I mean, he's got the 3 holes, but that's for something else. I'll get to that. But you can actually attach the trailer here and have him tow around Optimus Prime's trailer. I like that they actually, you know, made the height of that appropriate, because he did do that a couple times in the cartoon. And like, you know, looking at it with the scale, I think you can kind of tell that like, yeah, this sort of works, you know, as him being sort of a, you know, a smaller truck, not like a big rig, but just a smaller truck. But yeah, no, I'm pretty pleased with the vehicle mode scale, because that's something that's pretty important to me. But yeah, he comes with these 2 weapons, which store in kind of an interesting way, in vehicle mode at least. This part here, you see you've got the 3 holes there and the 3 pegs here. You can just peg that on, and then what you do with the gun is you actually split it down the middle lengthwise, which is kind of interesting. It can be kind of a pain to do, but and then he's got these slots here, and then the tabs on the shield piece that you just peg these onto. It's not like a super great connection. It's a little bit loose, but they're not really going much of anywhere once you get them on there, unless you like are really bumping around. And that creates like a little truck bed, which I think is a pretty cool and innovative way to like store the weapons in vehicle mode. Um, I mean, like, you know, my whole thing with weapon storage is I want it to make sense for the vehicle mode, and this definitely does. I like it as like a detachable piece. But the one thing that kind of sucks about it is it takes away the functionality of like the trailer connection. And also, I don't generally think of Huffer being the type to like really have weapons on him, because like in the original cartoon, like, I mean, they all had weapons, but he was generally like not really a fighter, so I wouldn't really mind him not having weapons at all. And then in robot mode, these pieces really just kind of don't store at all, which is like, Kingdom, you get so close. You either have storage in one mode or the other, and that's kind of an ongoing trend that annoys me. But yeah, this is, regardless of how, you know, it works or doesn't work in the other mode, I think that this is a really neat way to store the weapons. You can see, like, if you look through them and you like get the light, like you can kind of see through the paint a little bit from some angles where like the light shines through the orange plastic. I can't really get it to happen here on camera. Maybe if I bring my light down, you can kind of see like the orange shining through there, which is, yeah, maybe could have used another coat, but it's not too distracting. But yeah, I'll just put these off to the side and get to transformation. One more thing to mention is I've made a slight bit of modification to this alt mode, because before there were a couple tabs here that clearly I've, you know, just chipped off with an X-Acto knife that were on the bottom here, and they would tab into these sections right here on the back of his waist piece. But when you tab those in fully, it would basically bend the truck up like that a little bit, so it's got like this kind of like curve to it, sort of like it buckled in the middle. And like, I didn't really like the way that that looked. I don't think it was like really designed to be that way. I just think that, you know, with whatever the measurements were off by like a few micrometers or something, so it ended up being like a little bit bent like that. And then if you, to fix that when the tabs were still there, you'd kind of have to untab it, which would mean that the wheels were kind of like sitting, the back wheels were sitting higher up than the front wheels, so the whole thing would have kind of this like downward slope to it. So I just decided like, well, I mean, if it fits fine like this, that means that those tabs aren't really structurally important. So I just decided to just chip them off, and now you can actually tab this in all the way, but then also, you know, straighten out the truck. And it's still not like perfectly level, like it still has a bit of a slant backwards to it, but it's definitely a whole lot better. So just know that, you know, if that's something that you're interested in, obviously the legs aren't quite as secure here, but the knee joints, and there's also these tabs on the back of the shins here that are the back of the shins that go into the back of the thighs here that lock it down a bit too. So like if you don't want it to be like that and that bothers you, those tabs aren't necessary if you don't have a problem kind of just carefully breaking those off. But yeah, anyway, so transformation, you've seen part of it, is you take the back end of the truck here and you rotate it back, and you can split the legs, and then the bits of the, I guess still sort of a truck bed here, they flip all the way around and become his heels and reveal his shins. That's pretty cool. And then the arms here, well, first what you want to do is take the cab section and sort of angle it up. You kind of want to like bring the arms back on the elbows a little bit to like untab them from these tabs. And then this comes up on a double hinge, and we'll just leave that there for now just to kind of get out of the way. And then you want to untab the arms from the side. They peg into the back here, but you just want to untab them because these wheels are in the way. And then you take this whole section and bring that back, which allows you to put the wheels in the back here, which then allows you to then move the arms up and tab them into place. And then you can bring that whole section back and make sure that this little section here kind of goes over that bit, so like that, and you want to make sure it does that in both modes. And then the hands just fold into the arms here and then come down. You can rotate them to get them oriented forward. Rotate the head around. You don't have to rotate the head around, and I find that like in truck mode you can kind of see his face if you're like looking straight down into the windshield. So whatever is really your preference, you know, obviously it's just a matter of like whether you can kind of see it from the windshield or whether you can see it from on the underside. Personally, I just choose to rotate it around. That's just, I don't know how the instructions have it, so it works for me. But and then you bring this back down on the double hinge, but you will kind of want to bring it like, there's a few different ways you could have it. I usually have it so it's like the you can't really see the piece in there, but it's sort of like at an angle going up rather than like all the way back where this starts bumping into his shoulders. Alternatively, you could just bring the one section of the double hinge back so it kind of sits at this angle. I don't think that looks too bad. Like it kind of has this sort of natural slope to the thing. So it's really a matter of like whether you want it to look like that or look like this. I choose to have it like that, but you know, either way. And yeah, there you have Huffer in his robot mode, and he looks fantastic. I think he's a really nice little Huffer. He's got the I love they got the blues just right here. He's got that nice Huffer head sculpt that kind of makes him look like he's wearing the like a dumb like superhero mask sort of thing over his eyes. But yeah, articulation wise, the head is on a ball joint. You kind of have to move this out of the way to get to it, but you don't get a ton of, you know, wiggle back and forth, but rotates just fine. The shoulders, they're on swivels right here, and then a hinge out to the side. Elbows, you've got that bicep swivel, and then about a little bit under 90 degrees of bend at the elbow. You can bring the wrists in, but it's kind of like this weird, awkward bend that kind of extends them, so, you know. He's got a waist joint that's pretty tight, but it's a nice smooth swivel. Universal joints at the hips here. Can rotate forward and back. It goes, yeah, not all the way out to the side, but like he's got the thigh swivel, pretty deep knee bend just because of how the thighs collapse into the shins for transformation, and then he's got good, pretty decent amount of ankle tilt. Although, you know, if you bring it past like here, you're breaking up the sculpt a little bit, but either way. And then like these like. I don't think you're really going to get much in terms of like support for those heel structures. Like you can kind of bring it down to the ground, but it's not really going to like hold much actual weight if you untab them. They're really supposed to just stay locked into place there. But yeah, he's got a pretty good articulation in his robot mode. Here he is again with his weapons. Again, like I don't really envision Huffer having weapons, so like it doesn't really, yeah. I just kind of leave him off to the side generally, but he's got this shield here and then the big gun. And what's kind of a bummer is like there's no real way to store him. Like he's got this slot here, so you can kind of tab this on at like a weird angle, since like the headlights kind of, or the lights kind of get in the way if you're tabbing him with any of the other tabs, since all of these pegs are just like so shallow. So you kind of have to like do it at this weird angle. And then there's really no way to store the gun. I mean, I guess you can just tab it onto one of these slots here, even though it's a really loose connection, and that's just kind of an awkward thing. And then like you could, if you want, just tab the gun onto the back here and leave the shield off to the side, but the shield is the way that it connects in alt mode. So then the gun doesn't have storage in alt mode. So yeah, again, with Kingdom, kind of, you know, hitting the mark on storing it in one of the two modes, but not the other. Again, with Huffer, it doesn't bother me because like I was kind of always going to leave these off to the side to begin with. I don't really envision him as the type of guy that carries weapons on him, and I really like the functionality of having him attached to the trailer and the alt mode, so I wouldn't want to put the truck bed on it and, you know, get rid of that functionality. But yeah, I'll show him off with Bumblebee and Prime again, and they still look pretty good together, I think. I think that scale works out pretty well. You know, he's a little bit taller than Bumblebee, but obviously a lot shorter than Prime. And then I didn't really feel like showing them off in vehicle mode, but just to kind of show you where he stands on the range of like Deluxe height, there he is with Prowl and Bumblebee. So you can see not quite the sort of like really tiny Deluxe that Bumblebee was, but definitely quite a significant bit shorter than like an average size Deluxe like Prowl. So I think that works pretty well for keeping him as a mini bot. And then, you know, here he is again with with our little scale human being, just in case you wondered what these guys would look like height wise with a person, keeping it to the scale of the vehicle mode. But yeah, he's a pretty good figure overall. Very few complaints with them. Like the one, you know, it would be kind of annoying if he couldn't have that like flat truck in vehicle mode just because of those tabs, but since they were structurally unnecessary, like it's not really a problem for me to just chip those off. Like it's kind of an ugly thing, but you don't really see it in either mode. So yeah, I think it works pretty well. I'm quite pleased with him. All of his joints feel pretty good. This knee is maybe like a little bit loose compared to this one, but it's definitely, you know, it's not bad. It's just like, okay, I could hold him by that leg, but not by that leg, but it's not falling on its own. Like it still holds him up just fine. But yeah, he's a pretty good little figure, and I definitely would recommend him. If you enjoyed my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do generally I do BotBots reviews on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then other reviews like these on Sundays. And if you have anything you want me to review, leave it in the comments, and I'll let you know if I can get to it. But yeah, here we have Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Huffer.